Welcome everyone to our Open Digital Day at Sankt Ignatios College. Today we'll be talking about our Religious Educator program as well as the master's degree at Sankt Ignatios. First, I will introduce myself. My name is Sally and I'm a student of the master's program at Sankt Ignatios. And today we're going to be having Daniel with us, and he was actually one of my teachers. So I will ask Daniel to introduce himself.
Yes, hello. Thank you, Sally. My name is Daniel Öhrvall, and I'm a teacher in the Department of Eastern Christian Studies at University College Stockholm. And also working at the foundation of Sankt Ignatios.
Okay, so welcome, Daniel, and I hope that we are going to clear all the questions about the programs at Sankt Ignatios. So to start with, Sankt Ignatios has been posting about the Religious Educator program as well as a master's degree in Eastern Christian Studies. So would you please kindly give us a short introduction about both and what are the differences between them?
Yes, the Eastern Christian, the Religious Educator program is one of our professional programs that we give in collaboration with the foundation of Sankt Ignatios and University College Stockholm. And the Religious Educator program, it's based on a MA and master course, 2 years in Eastern Christian Studies. And then it's also you also need to have 1 year of Folkhögskola studies to get the exam of the Religious Educator. And that's the difference between taking an ordinary master in Eastern Christian Studies. Then you don't need this component of Folkhögskola. Then it's just based on the academy studies.
Okay, and what are the requirements that needed to join any of these programs?
Well, when it comes to the level of the academy, it's the general standards that are needed. That you need to have a bachelor to enter the master's program, but we have 2 ways of addressing this when it comes to the Religious Educator program and the Master in Eastern Christian Studies. You can have a BA in the humanities, and then you could read 1 year as a pre-master course to enter the master. Then your master will be 3 years instead. But if you have a BA in Eastern Christian Studies or equivalent, then you can enter the master for 2 years. So the requirements is a BA, but there is also specific requirements to have previous studies in relating to Eastern Christian churches or studies.
Could you please tell us about what courses are studied in these programs?
Yes, when it comes to Eastern Christian Studies, the church itself is the object. We are studying the sources of Eastern Christian tradition, and it's basically based on 4 sources. It's the Bible and the Apostolic Scriptures, one source, and then we have liturgy and worship, that's one source, and patristics is also one of the sources, and then ecclesiology. And in this program, for instance, the master program is divided into 2 blocks. The first one, it's called the sources of tradition, and this is basically what you read. You read courses that are connected to church history and patristics, especially liturgics and ecclesiology. And then in block 2, it's called research and development, and here you have 3 different areas that you study more thoroughly. You choose one area, and then it's a set of courses that you could choose among to deepen this aspect. And there are 3 areas in this block. It's church fathers and the historical context, and it's also the church and the spirituality and worship, the second part. And the third one is, or not part, it's an area more. The second area is church organizations in both within and in relation to things. You can say that we have history and patristics as the first area. And the second area is liturgics and spirituality. And then we have the third area is ecclesiology, more or less, church organization. So on the second year of the master, you deepen your knowledge and study more closely one of these areas. You choose collective courses.
And of course, you end up writing like a thesis in one of those areas.
Yes, of course. And it's also possible to write a thesis already at the first year. You can take a first year master
Would studying the masters at Sankt Ignatios allow me to be like continue studying PhD?
Yes, you can apply for a PhD already after the first year master at Stockholm School, this school. So, but you can also do a master and then apply for doctoral studies.
So also, if we have students who are wondering if it's studying like full-time, part-time, on campus, online, what is like the conditions of studying these programs?
Programs are on-campus programs, both Religious Educator program and Master program in Eastern Christian Studies, but Master program can be studied as a distance program as well. So you can either choose to study it online. In that case, you can choose between 2 programs, either Religious Educator or Master in Eastern Christian Studies. But if you prefer to study online, then there is Master program in Eastern Christian Studies. Since all 3 master programs, our master programs, are online programs as well.
Okay, since Brianna, you are just with us, so I would like to ask you about the costs of the program.
Yeah, so when it comes to the cost, so tuition fee at both Sankt Ignatios Folkhögskola and Stockholm School of Theology is free of charge for everyone who is either citizens of Sweden or is registered in Sweden, so it's living in Sweden and is registered, and that is a requirement when it comes to Folkhögskola part of Religious Educator program. When it comes to purely academic part, which means academic part of Religious Educator program or academic part of master or a whole master program in Eastern Christian Studies, in that case, tuition fee is, there is no tuition fee for anyone coming from the European Union or anyone coming from the European Economic Area. But there is a tuition fee for anyone coming from any other country. So you can find out more about our tuition fees at both santignatios.org or ehs.sc websites. So the only fee that we have, it's part of Folkhögskola service fee. And that is a mandatory fee, but that fee is basically for insurance and for coffee breaks and some costs, and that one is only for religious educator program, and that one equals 1,200 crowns, which is approximately 120 euros for you who are interested and coming from the EU area.
Okay. Thank you, Bojana, for all of this rich information. I will move to Daniel into more like general questions about why do you think is it important for our students to continue from bachelor to master's degree, for example, and especially maybe a person would be studying for so many years and we don't know if they're going to have a job in the field.
Yeah, so you're asking how you can get a job after you're taking a religious educator program.
How shall we encourage the students to apply?
Yes, of course. Well, I think we have a changed situation when it comes to how the church relates to a globalized world. The churches are not privileged in the same sense to have the let's say to own the truth, or to have a position where we have been, where we are funded by a state. At least in Sweden, Orthodox churches are minority churches and so on. So we need to work in a different way, and this when it comes to being a church in modernity. At least that's my view, and to articulate our faith, to make it accessible for in modernity, for people that both living in a modern society but also have this strong identification with an Orthodox tradition, for instance. I think this articulation to articulate the faith that are grounded in this identity, in this deep identity of a Christian tradition, but still be articulated in a way that it's accessible in contemporary world and in modern society. I think that requires a skill, and it requires an education, and the church today are in need of this skill. A church leadership that could make this happen, so to speak, to articulate the uniqueness of their faith in a way that it's accessible both for internally for the churches, but also externally for others, to let them in, so to speak, of what churches are. So definitely, I think especially the religious educator education is a development of our Orthodox churches. So therefore, I think we should there should be. I will encourage every person to take this education, and it's also my conviction that when you have an exam as a religious educator, there will also be job opportunities, because it's a unique education, and that I think the churches will learn to appreciate in the long run.
I would actually like to add something to you, Daniel, if you allow me.
Yes,
that studying at Sankt Ignatios is actually with the church. We're not excluded from the church, but in the Sankt Ignatios we live with our different churches, like Tewahedo tradition, Coptic tradition, Syriac traditions, Byzantine traditions. So we're in the middle of the tradition. So me as a student, I get acquainted to different traditions, and I'm blessed with different traditions. And meanwhile, while I'm studying in masters, I get acquainted to the research world, and I get to get involved in the research seminars, and of course on both sides these like acquired skills during studying both programs. So I will continue. So I've been asked this question. I would like to ask you, what kind of like when we come and study further in the master's program, our faith is always challenged. So what do you think about the relation between faith and knowledge?
Yes, we have this expression at Sankt Ignatios that we read when in the Folkhögskola course. It's Ephraim, Syrian, I think that's a name in English. He said that it's like if we think of a bird that has two wings, one wing is love and the other wing is truth, and it needs both, he says, to fly. And I think that's the relation between knowledge and faith in one way. Love could be symbolized as faith and truth as knowledge. It's not enough just to have knowledge. It also has to be combined or fulfilled with love. And this is why we at this education and also on our pastoral program has combined academic knowledge with folkhögskola courses, as Sally said. When we in the academy, we are analyzing things. We could question the tradition. We could look more closely on or the case of origin in a scholarly way. But on a folkhögskola, we can ask ourselves, what does this mean for my Christian life? And after we have prayed together in the seminary, we could also ask how do we relate Origen's thinking to our experience of faith. So in this way, we are combining the scholarly methods and the strength of scholarly achievement, of developing a critical mind, analyzing things, with folkhögskola. That's where we ask different questions. What does this mean to the church? How could we explain this? How could faith be an existential reality for me? That kind of question. So I think to answer your question, Sally, I think we don't need to be afraid of look at our tradition critically. When we do it from within the tradition, we could still practice our faith and still be critical. And that's why we have differentiated between these two realms of education, folkhögskola and academy.
So you're kind of saying that the students through the path are like supported, especially in the Religious Educator program at the Folkhögskola level, that we take the knowledge and we can like discuss it in the seminaries, as you're saying.
Yes. It's like a fish. We could look at the fish in a laboratory.
Yeah.
But then when we put it in the water, if it's not dead, the fish moves, and it's like we are when we in the academy we are placing our church as in the laboratory. We're looking on it like this, but then we take it back to the life of the church. And this is very important, I think, for a theological education. Exactly as you said, Sally, we are doing this with the churches, from within the churches. And I will say that this is the main idea of Eastern Christian studies, that we are studying within and with the churches, but in two different realms, folkhögskola and academy. So we could also develop a critical mindset, but at the same time develop a spirituality to again make this knowledge, to animate this knowledge.
Okay. Thank you, Daniel, for all your questions, and thanks for those who have been listening to us. I hope that we have had like a very brief introduction to our programs. And of course, if you need any further information, you can join Sankt Ignatios you can go join Sankt Ignatios website, and even join our Facebook and Instagram pages for more information about courses and the program. Thank you, Daniel, and thanks to everyone in the room.
Thank you, Sally.